T.I.'s son, King. King Harris has been arrested after not appearing in court and some other things connected to his actions.
Trying to coddle him for. Let the man walk off, have some time to himself, sit down, soak it up, and come up with what he need to do.
King Harris, only 21 years old and the son of Atlanta icons T and Tiny Harris, is fighting for his life tonight. What happened inside that Georgia facility is not being described as an ordinary prison altercation. It was a calculated near-fatal ambush. Medical documents confirm that his skull was fractured by what doctors call a lock and sock, a padlock tied inside cloth and swung with force. We've learned that multiple bones in his face were shattered, and that when officers arrived, he was already unconscious on the floor. The most disturbing detail comes straight from internal reports. Every security camera covering that cell block had gone dark minutes before the attack began. No footage, no witnesses, only silence.
So him being arrested isn't really like the shocker. It's him coming out and his, I guess, reaction to it, right? Because everybody's saying, King, you grew up privileged, bro. Why are you going down this path? Now he's talking about F the police, F12. So, you know, it just, he just don't care.
We can see why this incident immediately triggered suspicion. King was not a hardened inmate. He was serving short time following a September 2024 arrest for driving under the influence and failing to appear in court. His case had been minor, almost routine, until it turned into a scene of violence that looked deliberate. What makes the situation more chilling is the timing. Just weeks earlier, he had welcomed his first son, celebrated publicly by his parents and documented in the family's posts. Within days of that joy, he was lying in a hospital bed under constant monitoring. The contrast between a proud new father and a barely breathing young man could not be sharper. We've confirmed through county records that King's incarceration began quietly without media attention, but sources inside the facility now say he had been talking too much about what he was seeing behind the walls. They describe him as outspoken, claiming guards were involved in smuggling contraband and turning a blind eye to internal extortion. One source familiar with his case alleges he had planned to contact his lawyer about filing a complaint. Whether that information reached the wrong ears is now the question that has investigators divided. Was this a message to silence him or a warning meant for someone else entirely?
Been able to do that if it wasn't for Family Hustle. Right. And it does come with some, you know, it's some adversity. It's some adversity to come with that. People get in your bed.
Timing couldn't be worse for the Harris family. T and Tiny are already navigating renewed attention from their own ongoing legal fights. Earlier this year, their defamation standoff with influencer Sabrina Peterson returned to headlines after Peterson attempted to revive her 2021 lawsuit accusing them of misconduct and reputational harm. The court dismissed her appeal, but not before she resurfaced older claims linking the family to alleged trafficking and coercive behavior, claims they have repeatedly denied. Peterson vowed to release what she called receipts, and her posts reignited online debates about the couple's past. When King's attack occurred, social networks immediately tied the two timelines together, suggesting the violence might be connected to those wider controversies. There's no evidence of that yet, but the speculation is growing louder. Meanwhile, the prison's explanation for the missing footage only deepened mistrust. Officials insist the cameras malfunctioned due to a power relay error, but former corrections staff told us that a complete blackout affecting every unit simultaneously is almost impossible unless manually triggered. The coincidence is hard to ignore. The malfunction began 6 minutes before the attack and ended 5 minutes after emergency medics arrived in a facility where every corridor is supposed to be monitored. Such a gap feels almost engineered. Even state investigators privately admit the failure raises serious procedural questions.
What we're not gonna do is open up the door to my bedroom, as you shouldn't have to either. Open up the door to my bedroom for everybody to come in, chime in, and make their opinions about what we do and don't do or should or shouldn't do. But I will say this, whatever we ever have done has been done with consensual adults.
As for the weapon, the medical report removes any doubt that this was premeditated. A lock and sock isn't an improvised reaction. It's something crafted in advance, hidden, and swung with lethal precision. That detail has become the cornerstone for those claiming this was a planned hit. Several inmates reportedly heard an argument earlier that day, but none have come forward officially. One insider told us they're too scared to speak, saying people vanish for less. The same insider alleges that certain guards were moved to different posts immediately after the incident, which they interpret as a quiet internal shakeup. We can't overlook how public sympathy for King has exploded. Outside the hospital, fans have been gathering with candles, chanting his name, demanding answers. T has made only brief comments, telling reporters that he wants truth more than vengeance. Tiny, visibly shaken, posted a message asking supporters to keep praying. Behind those calm statements, though, insiders describe a family boiling with fear and suspicion. Some close to them believe King's assault could be retaliation for stories he shared about internal corruption. Others whisper that the attack might have been orchestrated to send a message to his father, who has his own history of powerful enemies in both the entertainment and legal arenas.
I graduated. That's the only good thing they posted of me going viral. I'm not on the media's good side. I don't know why, but I ain't.
Declaring he wanted to be bigger than Michael Jackson. He talked about fatherhood, music, and redemption. His words now sound almost haunting. A young man planning for the future, unaware of how close that future was to collapsing. Less than a month later, police in Dunwoody detained him on an old warrant. He was transferred to Pickens County, and that's where everything changed. The connection between King's growing confidence and his sudden downfall has become central to the conspiracy theories spreading across Atlanta. Some people close to the investigation believe he was being protected by certain officers until he started talking about what he'd seen. Others argue the attack came from inmates loyal to outside groups who viewed King as leverage. Pressure on his father during a volatile legal period. No one can prove any of this yet.
How do you feel with, because now that the evolved T.I. is also the even more of a father T.I., because not only are you just a father, you have to be a father in the industry, because all your kids are in the industry.
Man, damn. Yeah, that's I ain't see that one.
Even the family's attempts to focus on positivity have been dragged into the conversation. In August, T and Tiny celebrated 15 years of marriage, posting videos from Thailand and writing about love conquering obstacles. Within weeks, that public happiness turned into crisis management. Now their followers are dissecting every post, every caption, looking for hidden meaning. Some claim Tiny's statement about love winning through the tough times was more than sentimental. It was a coded acknowledgement that the family was already under stress. What makes this story especially unsettling is the pattern. Over the years, the Harrises have faced multiple accusations, survived lawsuits, and fought off narratives of scandal. But this is different. This time the violence is physical, the evidence is visible, and the silence from officials feels deliberate. We've been told that state investigators have yet to release a single report about the malfunctioning cameras. They promise an internal review, but no one expects quick results. In the meantime, the family is reportedly hiring private security and preparing for legal action against the facility.
Discrediting and trying to take that I done did and be like, nah, it ain't good. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's like...
The online reaction has turned the case into a cultural flashpoint. Some defend the family, saying they're targets because of past controversies. Others insist the pattern of secrecy suggests powerful hands at work. We can see how these theories feed each other. Each unanswered question becoming proof of something bigger. The idea of a planned hit may sound extreme. Yet, when every official channel fails to explain what happened, rumor fills the vacuum. Inside the hospital, King remains in critical condition. Sources say doctors performed emergency surgery to relieve pressure on his brain, and though his pulse has stabilized, he's not responding to commands. One physician described the injuries as consistent with repeated blows while restrained. If true, that would mean whoever attacked him wasn't fighting, but punishing, and without camera footage, proving that becomes almost impossible. Meanwhile, whispers continue that certain staff members have been placed on administrative leave. Officials refuse to release their names, citing privacy laws. But insiders say the list includes both guards and supervisors. That quiet reshuffling has only fueled speculation that someone is trying to contain the fallout. And behind closed doors, even veteran officers are calling the event a black mark on the department.
I thought he looked gorgeous. He was like, so that was kind of like, we exchanged numbers, and we ended up meeting that same day. We went to a $3 cafe, we talked, and we kind of got to know each other a little bit over some wings. And from there, we kind of like just played phone tag for a minute and finally hooked.
Has become more than a headline. His story now sits at the intersection of celebrity power, institutional failure, and family tragedy. We can feel the tension in every public statement, every press conference where officials promise transparency but offer nothing. The Harris family, once known for their reality show and glamorous image, is now living through the kind of reality no one would volunteer to film. As pressure mounts, the questions keep multiplying. Who ordered the guards to stand down? Why did the power relay fail only on that wing? And why was a young man with no violent record placed among inmates with known gang affiliations? These are not small coincidences. They form a chain that many believe points to deliberate intent. We've heard from one former associate of the family who said King was loud about things he shouldn't have been. He didn't understand that some secrets keep people safe. That line has been circulating online, echoing the fear that this attack was a warning to him, to his parents, or to anyone thinking about challenging the system. Tonight, as investigators argue over missing footage and fans light candles outside the hospital, the larger story remains locked behind silence. We can see the pattern forming, a pattern that suggests King Harris wasn't just attacked, he was silenced. But the real question, the one no one seems willing to answer yet, is who wanted him quiet and why now?
Pop royalty accused of drugging and sexually assaulting women. Rapper, actor, and businessman Clifford T.I. Harris, along with his wife, Tamika Tiny Cottle, they're being named in a massive...
We can already sense that this goes far beyond one violent night behind bars. What happened to King Harris feels like the latest twist in a long tangled story that has followed the Harris family for years. Every controversy, every courtroom headline, every accusation has built a shadow around them. And now with a young man in critical condition and no clear answers, those shadows have come roaring back to life. T has never been a stranger to legal trouble. We remember the early headlines, the weapons charges, the reality shows that tried to rebuild his image, and the countless interviews where he called himself the King of the South. But the most damaging chapter didn't come from the music world. It came from a courtroom. In 2021, entrepreneur Sabrina Peterson accused him and Tiny of terrifying misconduct, even claiming that T.I. once pointed a gun at her during an argument. Her lawsuit for defamation became a public spectacle, with Peterson describing a world of manipulation and coercion, and the Harrises insisting every claim was false. When the judge dismissed the suit, T.I. called it vindication. But we can't forget that the allegations never disappeared. They lingered, whispered through the industry, resurfacing again and again whenever the family tried to move on. Really, I really admire his...
I really admire his dedication and commitment to the craft, because, I kind of told him, what was wrong about it.
By 2024, the situation had turned toxic. Peterson lost her appeal to reinstate the case, but she promised revenge, announcing online that she held receipts and that federal agencies already had what she called evidence. That timing now feels eerie because while that online feud reignited, King Harris was already sitting in a county facility just weeks away from the night everything went wrong. We have to ask, if the legal system couldn't bring T.I. down, could someone have decided to send a message through his son instead? It's not a wild idea in the world of celebrity grudges and deep resentments. The Harrises have fought off accusations that reached from Atlanta to Los Angeles. They've been accused, cleared, and accused again, creating enemies on every level, from former friends to industry insiders who felt betrayed. And just as T.I. was preparing to release what he called his final album, The King, his real-life heir was brutally attacked inside a locked facility. The symbolism is impossible to ignore. Was someone trying to turn that title into a warning? Or was fate simply mocking the man who once crowned himself royalty?
For your kids in your eyes,
what does success look like for my kids and my doing what they love and earning a living, like being able to take care of themselves, doing the things that they love, the things that fulfill their passion. You know what I mean? Allowing them to follow their dreams and just create.
We've looked at the timing and it's haunting. The album's promotional interviews had already begun. T spoke about shedding ego, about ending the King era for good. Within days, King Harris was fighting for his life. Insiders close to the family believe that what happened behind those prison walls wasn't coincidence. It was message delivery. Some claim that powerful figures tied to past scandals wanted to remind T.I. that his fame couldn't shield him from consequences. Others whispered that people inside the facility were paid to make sure the cameras went dark, and the story could be written however officials wanted. The prison's silence has only deepened suspicion. Every request for footage has been met with the same explanation: technical malfunction. No one can explain how a modern surveillance system designed to record every second of inmate movement failed across multiple units at once. The warden insists it was a power relay issue, but engineers familiar with similar systems say such a synchronized failure would require human intervention. One former corrections officer told us that doesn't happen by accident. Somebody cut that feed. If that's true, it means someone inside had the access and the motive to make sure we'd never see what really happened.
Steve Sadar reached out to me looking to make a deal on behalf of T.I. and Tiny. And I told Steve Sadar that my clients want justice. So if the deal involves Tiny and T.I. turning themselves in and admitting to the crime that they've committed, then fine, we got a deal. But if it does not, then I would prefer to have the investigators do their work and to bring criminal charges against Tiny and T.I.
We've seen this kind of pattern before, high-profile cases where evidence disappears, paperwork gets delayed, and stories change from one day to the next. The official reporting King's case shifted 3 times within the first 48 hours. First, they said it was a fight between inmates. Then, it became an altercation involving contraband. Now, it's classified as an ongoing investigation. Each change makes the family's theory of a cover-up sound less like paranoia and more like survival instinct. And while the authorities hide behind policy statements, the Harris family is taking matters into their own hands. Sources close to Tiny say she's hired private investigators to track the timeline of that night minute-by-minute. T.I., meanwhile, has reportedly reached out to attorneys who specialize in corruption cases. They're not just searching for the attacker. They're looking for the chain of command that let it happen. We can feel the tension building. A father known for defiance, facing a system that may have turned its own cameras off to protect itself. Still, we can't overlook how this tragedy bleeds into Ty's legacy. He once told interviewers that calling himself the King of the South put a target on his back. Now that line feels prophetic. In the industry, being on top always comes with enemies, and the Harrises have accumulated more than their share. Even after their defamation victory earlier this year, the allegations surrounding their family continued to swirl online, mixing rumor with revenge. The attack on King might not just be about punishment. It could be about perception, reminding everyone that the Harris empire is not untouchable.
You should be rapping about the things in your life that you have in common with other people who may not live like.
What's most unsettling is how quickly the system seems ready to move on. No press conference from the facility, no follow-up from investigators, no timeline for when the footage might resurface. We can see how this fuels the sense that something bigger is being hidden, something that might reach beyond one family, one prison, or one night. If the Harris family's suspicions are right, then the cover-up isn't just about avoiding scandal. It's about protecting names we haven't even heard yet. And so, we are left with a haunting image. Ty standing outside that hospital waiting for word that his son will wake up knowing that every unanswered question pulls the past closer to the present. This wasn't just an attack on a young man. It was a message carved into a family's legacy. A reminder that fame doesn't erase the debts of history. But here's the question we can't shake. If this was retaliation for the past, how far will it go? Could the truth about that night expose something the public isn't ready to hear? We want to know what you think. Was King Harris simply caught in a system's failure, or was he the target of a message aimed directly at his father? Let us know your thoughts below and stay tuned because this story is far from finished. Until next time, take care of each other, stay curious, and remember, truth in Hollywood never stays buried for